Welcome to 010 Podcast, Episode 2. 010 Podcast, where we strive to bring you open, honest, and authentic conversation. We are Andi and Dr. Josi. And today we are going to talk about Dr. Josi. So the goal of our first 3 podcasts really is to talk about our business and ourselves so that kind of lay some groundwork about who we are. And so I'm super excited today to be interviewing Dr. Josi. Stay tuned for the whole show. We're going to learn a lot of things. You're probably going to learn something about Josi you didn't know. I'm looking forward to that. There's probably a lot of things I still don't know about you.
Maybe.
Well, there has to be.
We'll have to,
yeah,
probably.
we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited. I'm
excited
to find out.
Can be shared on a podcast. No,
well,
I'm just kidding.
we'll keep it PG probably.
We will.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. We'll see what
maybe
happens.
PG-13. I don't know.
I don't even know what those
Who's to
ratings
say?
are anymore.
I know. That probably doesn't mean. That's probably still pretty tame in this world, in this day and age. But so, yeah, that's what we're doing today. We're talking to Dr. Josi. So when I say Dr. Josi, what are you a doctor of?
So I'm a doctor of chiropractic. So when you graduate, you get a couple letters behind your name. DC is what you would see for this specific degree. What it meant was after undergrad, you went to school for... my school was in trimesters, so it was 3 and a third years. Once you graduated, you had your degree. You had a lot of 4 parts to boards to get through to be able to practice in most states in the U.S., not all. But yeah, so a lot of quite a bit of schooling, quite a bit of routine, and telling you what to do from hour to hour.
3 and a third.
3 and a third, so trimesters.
Numbers.
So meaning, yeah.
That's 3. Yeah, we're numbers.
Awesome.
We're numbers people.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm not really a numbers person, but I've kind of become.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if I worked in a field with a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
I'd probably get a little bit distracted by all the numbers.
Right.
But in my line of work, there's not a ton of them, so I really do notice them now.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I got distracted again by numbers. Yeah. Okay, so I had a thought. I had a question when you were talking. So that's how many years you went to school. Okay, remind us where you went to school, because we talked about that last week briefly.
So from South Dakota originally, Buffalo, South Dakota, graduated with 14 students in my class, and then was valedictorian of that.
Wow.
Which, pretty big deal. Except I think there was 3 valedictorians in my class.
That's pretty good, though.
Which means...
Smart people come from Buffalo.
Well, I'd like to say that. We do have some very smart people from my class, or from Buffalo in general. Some work for NASA right now.
Awesome.
I know. Some worked in biomedical engineering.
That's awesome.
It's just some crazy things that have came out of Buffalo. So I'm very proud.
You should be. Absolutely.
Came from.
How many girls and how many boys of the 14? What was the split?
I think when we graduated, there was 4 girls, 10 boys.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely a different dynamic for us girls. I was the only one that played sports all the way through, so I feel like I was kind of a little bit of an outcast in that I got along with the boys really well. Yeah. And I'm sure if any of my classmates are listening to this, they would be able to say that too. Really good friends with the guys in my class. Keep in touch with some of them. One of them was my cousin, of course. So then you have almost like a brother in your class with you, watching out for you and stuff. At least that's what I felt. Just a really tight knit group. And it's funny though, we just had our another reunion to meet up with everybody, but very few came, including myself. I didn't go either. Yeah. So we're tight knit, but we've all got our lives that we're living now in our mid-30s. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, you asked where I went to school. So that's just the high school part. After that, I went to Chadron, Nebraska, to Chadron State College. I was an Eagle.
Why did you choose that school?
I chose that school based off of finances and who I knew there, that I knew somebody there. So coming from a little town, I don't think I knew quite how big I wanted to go. And Chadron the town of Chadron is definitely a college town. There was a Walmart, but really that was it. Otherwise, it's a lot of college housing, and everyone loves the football team, and like very small, tight-knit, small community. And I thought that would be my space. And then that's where the finances came in, and I had a full ride scholarship academically to go there, so I stayed. But that is one life lesson that I think Chadron's great. It just wasn't my place. And most of my friends would all say the same thing, that I was in too small of a school for me. I was ready to kind of spread my wings and check out a lot of different things, and I kind of just ended up getting myself in trouble more than I needed to.
Yeah.
And probably needed to be somewhere else. But anyway, so that's Chadron. Graduated there, and then in 2010, and then I started chiropractic school the following July 2011. So had a little gap in there.
And where was that again?
That was in Davenport, Iowa, Palmer College of Chiropractic. Great school. Just got very, very lucky going there. It's very philosophical, so it's based off of a lot of why we do the things that we do, which I think kept me, especially someone who knew nothing about chiropractic and went into it, understanding the whys kept my drive in doing what I'm doing, because I can just really see like the whole picture. And I'm a visionary kind of human anyway, so seeing that whole picture has been a good vision for me to just keep kind of going in the direction that I'm going in health in general. Yeah. It healed my life too, really, going to chiropractic school and seeing,
I would imagine,
like these concepts, and I was like, wow, like that makes sense. That makes sense why I, maybe didn't take an ibuprofen when I knew that something was hurting, because it just didn't make sense to me. Just some of those things. Same with like fever meds and things, that I grew up very medical, minded, and didn't really think anything of it other than it's just what we did.
Right.
We took the Dimetap, we took,
Right.
And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but I just didn't know that there was another way of thinking about your body and the power that it has. And then once I figured that out, I've kind of never looked back on what I think health is.
Right.
I guess.
It's so interesting that what we don't know, we don't know.
You just don't know.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you know it, you can't unknow it.
Right. I often think that's become my new favorite phrase recently, is like, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And I hear people all the time sort of like, I don't know if it's criticizing or critiquing or whatever the phrase may be, other people, and but this and but that, and I'm like, but they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So of course they're making decisions from a different place than you are, because you know different than they do. Yeah. Right. And we all do. So anyway, I like that you say that. I grew up in the 80s, and right, you took the Tylenol, well, until somebody poisoned them, and then you kind of questioned maybe a little bit or whatever, but you just did it. I don't know. I never questioned until I became an adult. And okay, that's great. I'm not a why person, so it's always interesting to me. I just, whatever feels good. So that's,
have you always been that way? Like a feeler?
Yeah, for sure. I've never been a why person. Really? Again, being I think that it's interesting that we're in different generations, because I think it brings different things to our relationship. But I really associate it with being a Gen X, is like, we just did what we were told. There wasn't a lot of questioning.
Got it. Yeah.
You just did what you were told to do. You just, whatever. We went with the flow. We were the generation that was whatever. We just kind of went with things. But no, I never questioned things. I just did what I was supposed to do.
I questioned everything.
Or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, but I didn't question.
Yeah.
I just,
right.
Whatever.
You just chose something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Not,
Right.
not, I need to know why.
I still don't really need to know why most things.
Yeah.
But maybe maybe I'm just that way.
You might be,
Vapid.
but also, like, I've started to let go of some of that.
Yeah.
Like, needing to know the whys, because as I started to realize there's maybe just not these answers,
Right.
or, like, they're different or whatever.
They're different.
I'm like, perspectives have definitely changed. And now I'm like, well, that's their why, and I have a different why, and
Right.
I don't need to. I can respect that their why too.
100%.
You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know if that's with age or wisdom or whatever, but it took a while for me to understand that there wasn't this is right and this is wrong.
Yes, and I think maybe I question a lot, but I don't need to know the why, because I feel like have always been lucky enough to understand that there's so much gray area. Mm-hmm. There just isn't a black and white.
Yeah.
In my world, the world that I live in. Yeah. So anyway, I think but I like that you said the why drives you, because I think that is a driver for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, and I remember, like, my first jobs, and it probably drove people crazy, but if I didn't know why, I was doing that step. Mm-hmm. And it turns out there was a lot of things that we maybe did because over the years they've just always done it that way. And
yes.
Then it was like, but why? Like, isn't there's got to be, a simpler way to do this, or a more efficient way, or something. So it has served me well, but it's also made me resent something that I needed to do. Like, for example, at home, like, my dad we'd go spray burdock out in the draws. That stuff is gross. Like, that is a chemical that is very, like, disgusting, very strong, like, damaging to a person. But here I am, this teenage girl that wanted to get her tan while I'm, out in the draws. Like, I get a great tan out there.
Right.
So here I am, like, pouring this purple stuff into a tank with water. It's splashing all over the place in a tank top and shorts. And now I'm like, Dad told me the why. I just didn't think that was a big enough why. And now I'm, like, looking at what I did when I was younger. I'm like, that was all your fault.
Right.
It was all your fault. So, like, I don't know. Whys it's still perspective in a way, but like, we can get to know how they think a little bit by understanding their whys. But,
for sure.
But it's probably not a huge necessity to get to the bottom of things. It's just curiosity.
For some people it is.
Yeah.
And for some, I think generationally too, that's what is it? Is it Gen Y? Aren't they the Y generation that they need to know why?
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I don't know the names anymore.
I know. I know.
What am I?
Well, you're a millennial. You're a millennial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm on the edge of that.
Right.
That's right. I'm an 88 model.
Yeah.
So 36 for anybody needing to do some math.
Right.
That's me.
Wow. Yeah. And I think generationally that's why we do kind of complement each other too, because we come from sort of a little bit different perspectives. But tell us about, you kind of did, you touched on that a little bit, but tell us about your early life growing up in Buffalo. Like, what's something you bring from that part of your life that has served you well?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So biggest thing I would say is I grew up on a ranch that was 40 miles from town. So we drove, we actually didn't go to town school right away. I went to a country school, like the one-room schoolhouse type thing, Little House on the Prairie, like that was kind of us, except it was 2 rooms. It was a upstairs and a downstairs. The younger kids were upstairs until about 5th grade, and then we went downstairs from 6th to 8th. So it was all the way through. When I started, I had 6 girls in my class. It's funny, when I graduated, I had 4. But 6 girls, but that was it. No boys in my class. And then with time, with about 4 years, that school went from like almost 40 kids down to like 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. So when it was done, and it needed to close, it was me, my sister, and my brother, the teachers, kiddo, Christy, and then a neighbor, Kelly. So there was 5 of us when it was done. And so I left at 8th grade. I went to town school. But my parents, like, bless their hearts, like, they drove me to every sporting event. Every day we were driving to Buffalo or driving to Ludlow. So Buffalo 40, Ludlow 20 miles to play basketball. To, be in any sort of events. It was all on them to get us there after school. So that put us home pretty late, wake up the next morning, go to school, pick us up, we go to practice, we drive home, So by 8th grade, I was staying in town one day a week. Freshman year, we just ended up getting a house in town for a family. Mm-hmm. And looking back on that, like how hard that would have been on my parents' marriage.
Right.
Dad had to stay home at the ranch.
Right.
I, was this little teenage girl that just didn't have had a big ego probably, that just like didn't understand what was going on dynamically there.
How could you?
I know.
Yeah.
Right. And then, they just made it work. My dad very rarely missed an event. My mom missed one because she went to her little sister's wedding in Italy. So that's how she missed one game of mine. We were spoiled with that we just had really supportive community, supportive family. We were decent in sports. Winning was in my nature, which kind of goes to like how I've become who I am now. Like achieving is very important to me, to a fault probably. But yeah, we just came from a community that was very supportive and knew how to win. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's good and bad to that, I suppose, but I feel like it served me pretty well in this world afterwards.
What, when you say we, talking about your siblings, where, tell me about your siblings and where you are in the birth order. And
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
I'm the oldest, yeah. And then it's my sister, 2 years younger, my brother, 4 years younger, and then my little brother is 10 years younger.
Okay.
They're all in South Dakota still. My brother is the rancher of the family. My sister is the fashion of the family and the fun of the family, I would say. And she's just got a bunch of kiddos and just a very outgoing human. And then my little brother is... we're going to call him the Rock because he's seriously the most steadfast human I think I've ever been around, and that he's just like the calmest guy.
The baby?
The baby. Mm. Yeah, he's just Jer Bear is what we called him as when he was little, and I'm sorry for saying that, Jarrett. But he's just like a calm guy that as soon as he comes into a room, everyone's just kind of like, oh, hey, Jarrett. Like, it's just great to see you. Like,
really?
He's just naturally that person. Calms everybody down. At least that's what I feel. And he's got a gutter business, actually. So everybody in my family owns a business now. Wow. And that is probably not what my parents thought was going to be the case when we were growing up,
Really?
I wouldn't think so. But every one of them does. Kind of
do you all, like, do you talk about business when you're together, or is that just not even a topic?
More recently than in the past. But granted, my little brother, he's just recently getting into business.
Okay.
He's had a business now for a couple of years. He's in construction, right? So, and my brother has been in business for a long time, but we never really discussed it too much. It was not like Thanksgiving dinner and we're talking about our businesses. They talk about cows all the time. Like, that is what they talk about.
Sure.
Is cattle. Which I can't really chime in a whole lot on that piece anymore. But when it comes to business stuff and we have that conversation, I'm very grateful that I can throw some ideas around with them. I'm the only one in the service industry quite like I am in this kind of depth. But yeah, my mom has owned multiple businesses. She would never claim to be a business owner, but she was. Flower shops. Yeah, flower shops and country stitching, like just a bunch of random things. But she kind of threw herself into a lot of different careers just to make it work while we were in school. That didn't interfere with the time that she could go to an event or whatever. She was very conscious of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it worked out good.
Okay, well, speaking of that, speaking of your mom, what's the favorite dish that your mom used to make for you?
Oh my goodness.
Like if she would say to you, "I'm going to make you anything you want," what would it be? Is she a good cook? Let's back it up.
First
I
off,
should
she's
back
a
it
great
up.
cook. She's a great cook. She comes from a line of cooks, I believe. My grandma was a great cook as well. Very she used a lot of seasonings. So
Perfect.
like her stuffing as a kid, I didn't like her stuffing. It was way too much gusto for like this for my little taste buds. But now her stuffing is so good, right? My mom's favorite dish. It's so hard. She's really, really good at potato soup, which she probably doesn't even know that I love her potato soup. But that would be one thing that's delicious. But when I think of home, I honestly think casseroles, which was what we.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a family of 6. You know, I can't imagine trying to feed all of our growing bodies. So tater tot casserole has a place in my heart. I don't make it myself anymore, right? But if I were to go home, she would maybe make that. Yeah, I would say that. And this is not my mom, but my dad's breakfast is always so good.
Really? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, bacon, eggs, hash browns.
Yummy.
Just made right, you know.
And it's the smell of it that just makes you think
so
of being
good.
a little kid, right? And for me, it was coming home from church. And, well, we'd go to church and then Sunday school, and my mom would go home and make breakfast. So when we came home from Sunday school, the whole house smelled like breakfast.
Yes, yeah.
The smell of breakfast.
I know.
Yeah.
Onions and bacon. I was just home this last weekend, and Mom was making something with that, and she's like, "Is there any better smell?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just so yummy."
Oh, right.
It's so good
and comforting, and I think it's food is such an interesting thing and how it plays into our memories and our time growing up and everything. But so what is your favorite thing what's your favorite food to cook? Like, do you cook? It's hard to cook as a single
really
in a
is.
household of one.
So I used to cook a lot, and I actually thought I was really figuring it out in a way, like because I went down this health journey, right? So making a quinoa salad was something that I felt like I kind of figured out. Eating for one, I kind of figured that out. Well, then, and this is where we're going to probably get into relationships a bit, but then when I was married, it was actually really nice to cook for someone else, but I didn't find the joy in it. I was really deep into business at that time, really trying to grow with my practice, not just with different services and all the things. So I pretty much it was kind of a chore, it turned into a chore. And unfortunately, I really haven't picked that back up. I do know flavor. I know good food, but I'm usually not the one cooking it.
Yeah.
Anymore. I'm a stir fry person. I throw anything that's in my fridge, and then I make a little sauce to put on it, which is usually olive oil, avocado oil, balsamic vinegar, and some coconut aminos, and that's about it. Everything pretty much tastes the same in my kitchen right now. So.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's smart. I've gotten bad about. I just don't cook anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just easier not to.
And some things I really enjoy are stuffed peppers, because I can freeze those and just pull them out when I go, or it's about to be soup season, which is when I cook the most.
Yeah, me too.
But I throw it all in the freezer, and then I just have, what kind of soup do I want after work tonight? And then I have some options.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, soup season is the best.
Yeah.
Crock pot season.
Yes.
I mean, it's always crock pot season, but honestly, when the weather turns, that's just so great. Yeah. What's your favorite splurge food? Like, if you're gonna, and I don't know the right word for it, because I hate the word treat yourself, because you're really not treating yourself when you eat a splurge food. But
when I feel like I just need some sustenance, like I'm ready to feel kind of satisfied and full, that's what I think of when I'm needing some different food. It's mashed potatoes.
Ooh, yummy.
Just love
Yummy.
Mashed potatoes just with butter. Honestly, I don't need the gravy and all that. I just like feeling satiated with that.
Yeah. I get that.
Or I eat a whole bag of chips. Let's be honest.
Right.
But more food, real food, I would say mashed potatoes.
Isn't it funny though? The mashed potatoes do make you feel satiated and full and like content and warm and all the fuzzy things, but a bag of chips doesn't. It just makes you feel like
just want to grab another
horseshit, quite frankly. Like,
yes,
ugh.
yeah.
It's good in the moment, maybe, but like afterwards, it's a hard no.
Yeah.
What is something that maybe nobody knows about you? That's a tough one because I think that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I hate it when people ask me, so do not ask me next week.
Okay.
But I mean, or maybe just a fun fact about you that maybe people just might find interesting.
There are a few, I think. So I've been on a lot of first dates, right? So this is a question.
Yeah.
That comes up. Tell me one thing.
Yes.
That no one else knows about you. I'm like, you really think I'm going to tell you the one thing that no one else knows about me? But I'll tell you all. No. Probably the one thing that surprises people the most now, there's two things. One, that I rodeoed. I rodeoed all the way through college. So if you were to see me now, I don't necessarily wear the turquoise and the boots and all that. So I think when people see me in the business world or just in my practice in general, they're surprised. But once they find out that I've lived on a ranch, then it's a little bit different. But I think just in first meetings, people wouldn't expect that out of me. And then I played rugby. So I was a rugby player in chiropractic school. Freaking loved it, and honestly think that would have been probably one of the better sports I would have been at. Learning it at 25 and getting myself beat up, through a couple years is a defeat in itself, but it was so cool. And it's very similar to what we're doing right now. It was so community based, where you were able to go head to head with a team on the field, and then afterwards, like, you hosted your opponent, the traveling team, you hosted them with pizza or drinks or whatever, and you had a little celebration after every game, and then you just became really close with your teammates. And I loved that style. I thought it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you seriously, especially with females, like, just think about it. Like, I remember in basketball getting screened and like, oh, that person was so rough, or that person was so whatever.
Right, and then it's almost like you hate them.
Yeah, like, oh, they're just a little snot or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and now it's like, no, we got graced. One of them was like this girl named Grace that just kicked our butt one game. Everybody's butt. All however many players we had. I still don't know all the rules to rugby, and I played for 8 years. But anyway, yeah, so she kicked our butt, but we called it graced from there on out, that if anyone got smeared, it was a grace moment, and we, had drinks with her afterwards. And
that's great.
Hung out. I think she cooked us supper,
That's so cool. I love that. I wish the whole world would like that.
I know.
When you have, a discourse with someone at the end of it, to have dinner together and break bread, whatever. Did you watch the Olympics at all?
I didn't get to watch a whole lot, but rugby made a huge name for themselves this year, and I just love that.
The one gal, I had to look up her name because I didn't remember. Alona, is that how it's saying? Maher. I follow her on TikTok. She's so fun, and she brought so much interesting character to the game. I think she's a catalyst, to why rugby became so popular this year. But it's a fun looking sport.
It's a super fun sport. There's a lot of technique to it and timing. So flow, like, that is the entire, it's kind of like volleyball. Like, if there's no flow in volleyball, like, it's rough to watch. Same with rugby. If there's not a flow, like, it is seriously just kind of looks like people are just running around and falling on the ground. Like,
which is fun to watch too.
But when you see the flow of it and all of a sudden something happens, it's like, oh my gosh, that was just beautiful. The timing and everything. So I hope that it becomes a thing here.
I was going to say, it's not a thing here, is it? It's not a thing in North Dakota. I don't think it is.
But I remember when I was first moving here, which you would think, being from South Dakota, that I would know North Dakota, but we went to the Black Hills for everything. And I remember looking up rugby in North Dakota, and there's a Rugby, North Dakota, a town, and that
Yeah.
just kept popping up, and I'm like, oh, there is rugby here, like I just no, it's
No, no, not the same thing.
not the same thing. So I haven't seen anyone playing around with that, but maybe one day.
It is pretty
awesome.
great. I was just talking to a little gal at the spa the other day, and she's a wrestler. And like there was no female wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, my one girlfriend was a female wrestler,
did.
but she had to fight to get in.
Oh, okay.
That was in junior high school.
That's pretty progressive,
Well, yeah, it was a thing. It was
I'm
a thing.
Sure it was.
But anyway, and there was no girls hockey. There was no girls. It wasn't a sport. It just wasn't
Contact
a thing,
sports, yeah.
right? There was a bunch of sport. It's really great to see all these all these opportunities that girls have now that we didn't have. Rugby.
Yeah. Rugby.
So I have one last question for you, and this may this may be you can expound on this as much as you want, because I think it's a great question. What kind of goals did you have as a younger female, and what kind of goals do you have now, and how have they changed and evolved over the years?
Yeah. So when I talk about goals as a younger female, my goals was to get married,
Yeah.
have babies.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I knew. I knew as a female you could be a teacher, you could be a ranch wife, you could be a nurse. And there's nothing wrong with any of those, but I just felt like I wasn't around a lot of other options other than, like I said, business owners. Like, my aunt owned a flower shop. My mom owned a flower shop. So, but they did that so that they could take care of their kids when they wanted to. Like, that flexibility was always really important. So I guess when I was younger, I thought I would just, get married and have babies and, probably live close to home and, just live the life that I grew up in.
Right.
Right. 30 years later, life is quite different than what I envisioned. Never planned on being a chiropractor, never planned on being a doctor, never planned on being a business owner, never planned on being divorced. Like, all these things are just not in the plans.
Never planned on starting a podcast.
Never planned on starting a podcast, other than my sister would say, 5 years ago, Josie, you told me that you were going to do this, and it's about
Oh, really?
staying time. Yes. It's like, well, maybe it'll be a little easier with someone.
Yeah, it is easier with someone.
So much easier.
Life in general, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is, so now when I look at my goals, I've traveled the world a little bit. I've met some really interesting humans along the way. A lot of people in my career, or in the chiropractic realm, of where they've taken their practice and what they've done. It just kind of kept opening my eyes to what I could do and where I could be. So, yeah. I mean, this is the start of it. Like, when I look at a typical chiropractic career, you go through high school, you go through undergrad, you go through chiropractic school, which is altogether about 25 years. Took me 26. So through that, and then you have this debt of 200 plus grand. Mine was 230 when I was done with school. I can't even imagine what it is now. So you have this debt, which means you get a job right away. You do the next thing. You just make the money so that you can pay off your debts, and see what happens from there. And I have had some really awesome mentors along the way, coaches. I paid for coaching so that I could be around people that are doing what I want to do, you know. So after doing some of that, I feel like my goals have changed, and I finally am having the courage to expand beyond just being a chiropractor. And I'm not saying just because I find it less than. I'm just, there's something else inside me that's going to expand, and I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look, but I do think it takes quite a bit from what I'm experiencing, a lot of remember the first podcast, you said you just have to not care what people think. Like, people don't really get it. Like, you have this great career, you have this business, you have all these things. Like, why not just like do the thing? And I'm like, because there's something else burning inside me that needs to go. So here's the podcast. Here's some other things that are kind of opening up the next chapter for me, and I don't know where it's headed yet. We'll see.
Do you have... I've never been a goal setter. I think you're probably more that type of person. I'm not sure, but I've never, when people say you should have short-term and long-term goals, I wouldn't call them goals. I would more call them, passions or dreams or where I see myself, that type of thing. But are you a goal setter?
Yeah.
Like, do you write them down? Do you set time, 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Do you have those types of goals?
I used to do that. I used to do the short term, long term. This is where I'm going to be. This is all the things you need to do in order to get to this point and this point, this point. Okay. I thought that I functioned best at that because it kept me accountable. However, I rarely met my goals.
Right.
And when I didn't meet my goals, who did you beat up? Yourself.
Right.
Who set you back further for the next goal that you're trying to reach.
Right.
So my personality did not work well with that, even though everyone told me to do it that way. You read the books, you hire the coaches, and you do all the... It just wasn't working. And I finally mentioned it to a mentor, and he's like, well, yeah. He's like, that's not how you click. And I'm like, well, okay. Like, so then I can do something different, and I'm still going to be successful? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. Like let's just kind of make my own playbook now. So I do at the beginning of the year. I know it's New Year's resolutions or whatever, and it's not that. I write a letter to myself of what's going to be done by the end of the year. And it doesn't have to be done, but like, what are the ideas that we had? And what's funny is I didn't think this was going to happen, and a podcast was on my letter the first of the year when I
Really?
did this. Yes.
Yeah, because we didn't talk about it till...
We didn't.
What,
and I
a
thought it was
month
going to
ago?
be my own.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be my own thing. But I didn't put that in there. Just that the podcast is rolling, and we're having, I don't remember how many episodes I was going to have done, but I just threw it out there, and I've barely read this letter any time throughout this year. But sure enough, this year's been a roller coaster ride, and yet the things are still coming about. It's kind of crazy. So no, I'm not a goal setter, but I am a visionary, and I do see most of the things that I see in the future for myself is about feeling and not about the actual result or whatever. I'm mostly going based off of that. We'll see what else comes about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that you had podcasts on your letter for the year.
No, you didn't know that.
Because it probably was a month ago that we had a conversation like we should do a podcast. Life again just kind of led us to that point, and here we sit today, just wrapping up episode number 2,
right?
Which was a really great interview with Dr. Josi, and
well, you were a great host.
I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening to me talk about me and Andi interview me. Quite an interesting episode for episode 2. We hope you learned something, and I really do hope you took something out of just the conversation. I just want to be a relatable, authentic human, and that's what I'm going to continue to bring.
I think you are.
Yeah, good. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or our website at 010retreats.com. And join us for our next week where I, Dr. Josi, get to interview Andi and see what she's all about.
That'll be, secrets will be revealed.
Secrets will be revealed. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Goodbye.